Hey, well, hello everyone, and welcome. Kavita here from Power Purpose Play, and I wanted to welcome you all to our Friday Fun Play video series. I'm so excited to introduce our guest today, Linda Gaylard. Linda is actually a tea sommelier. I didn't even know what a tea sommelier was until I met Linda, but she was a renowned wardrobe stylist and influencer within the fashion world, and now she is a certified tea sommelier and located in Toronto. And she graduated from a program developed by the Georgia Brown College and is certified by the Tea Association of Canada. And she's also an author of the Tea Book, which is a really comprehensive review of everything tea. And perhaps, Linda, you can let us know about that a little bit. So welcome, Linda. I'm so interested to learn about what you do. And as I said before, I never even knew that what a tea sommelier is. So please tell our viewers about yourself and how you reinvented yourself from a wardrobe stylist to into the world of tea. So, what led you to make the shift?
Hi, Kavita. Well, yes, I've had people ask me a few times what a tea sommelier is,
Yeah.
and ask me why I left the fashion world to explore tea.
Yes.
Uh, and it wasn't an all of a sudden decision to do this. It was kind of a gradual process. So I didn't exit my fashion work all of a sudden.
Yeah.
I moved, it was more that I moved into tea gradually. But as soon as I started the course at George Brown College, I knew that I was going to dive deep and that this was going to be my commitment.
Yeah.
But I loved fashion. It just became a very crowded, noisy profession. I mean, there were many people who wanted to do what I was doing, and I had a really great time over the years, 23 years,
Yeah.
working as a wardrobe stylist, both for television work and then for red carpet styling with
Oh,
actors and
oh,
actresses and
that's very cool.
presenters and
Yeah.
anchors and that sort of thing. And that was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But I could see that it was, I think, like anybody who changes their career, they change because it stops being enough fun to make it really worthwhile, worth committing to.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of how I started to feel about fashion. And it was also because I was becoming seduced by this tea world and the subject of tea and the idea that this course was available at George Brown College. And as far back as I can remember in my adult life, I had wanted to own a tea room.
Really?
While I don't own a tea room now, I do have a tea studio and I teach classes here. When I'm able again to teach in person, I will be
Yeah.
doing that. But so when I heard about this course being offered, I just jumped in, and I was so thankful that I did because I got in. I think just at the right time and timing is everything, as you know, particularly with the career move.
Yes.
And it just seemed like the right time. And as it turned out, it was because I was kind of one of the first out of the gate,
Okay.
as it were, in
Yeah.
the sommelier world at the time. And so I've been able to build on that, being one of the first, build on that over the last 10 years. And that's been very helpful. And I was also able to use a lot of the contacts that I had from my career in fashion, a lot of people who worked in promotion, public relations, and so on.
Mm-hmm.
They sort of latched on to me and had me do tea presentations
That's
at
amazing.
launch events and that sort of thing. So that kind of catapulted my career, I guess, at the beginning, which was very
What
helpful.
I think is really, really interesting about what you just said is that you had a passion already and you really you dove in. And a lot of people, I think that's the thing. There's always some hesitation, but it sounds like You really went in and you followed your passion and it looks, and you've been doing it for 10 years, did you say?
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
amazing. That's
Now,
amazing.
for the first 3 or 4 years, I was still doing some
Yeah.
uh, wardrobing work. And I was kind of balancing between the two, but I just set up my website and I just printed my cards and I
Nice.
had an Instagram account and, I was sort of building uh,
Yeah.
and I'd done quite a few events, but I also was a spokesperson for a brand, a fashion brand, and was continuing with some of that work
Hmm.
into the
Yeah.
tea
So,
discovery.
yeah.
And I can tell you what a tea sommelier is very
Yeah.
briefly.
I was going to say, I think a lot of people know what they know what a wine sommelier is, for example.
Well,
But
it's similar.
okay.
Some of the same vocabulary is used, some of the same terminology.
Yeah.
But I think we've been defining it, those of us who are tea sommeliers and have been for a while now, have been defining and redefining what our purpose is, I guess you could say. And I see for me that it really is about sharing knowledge and invigorating people's interest in pursuing tea for the enjoyment of tea. And I'm talking about tea that is a fairly high grade.
Yes.
Uh, I should just explain that all my studies have been for the Camellia sinensis plant, which is the true tea plant, and all 6 types of tea: white, green, yellow, oolong, black, fermented, aged. They all come from the same plant,
What is the name of the plant again? Sorry.
Camellia sinensis.
Ah. And
And
where is that from?
well, it originated indigenously in the foothills of the Himalayas,
Mm,
so on either side. So
yeah.
in northern India, in the jungles of Assam, in Sichuan and Yunnan provinces in China, in northern Vietnam, Laos, some of those countries that sort of border the Himalayas.
Yeah.
So that's where they've been able to trace early genetic material for the tea plant to that region.
Wow.
But of course, it migrated, tribal migration, and people bringing seeds with them and planting them. And it would have been used originally as a food and then as a medicine.
Mm-hmm.
And then around the Tang and Song dynasties, it became almost an art form. So it was a beverage to be enjoyed and not just a tonic or a medicine.
Mm-hmm.
Although it is a stimulant, it has caffeine,
Yes.
and it's as a tea sommelier, I really have to know about the terroir. There's 60 countries, over 60 countries now that produce tea. And so what is it about that country? Is the tea grown in a valley? Is it grown on a high elevation?
Yes.
Is it harvested before or after the rains? Is it harvested in the spring or in the autumn? These are all, it's a foliage plant. It's grown for its
Right.
foliage. So
Right.
it's the leaf buds that are harvested.
And what is which is the country that produces the largest amount of tea?
China,
China. Okay.
then India, and
Yeah.
then Sri Lanka, and then Kenya, and it sort of goes on from
That's all.
there.
Okay.
But I'm all about exploring some of the new terroir for tea. So, for instance, there's tea grown in Colombia. There's some
Mm.
beautiful Colombian tea. It's grown in a valley that's protected. It's got a really interesting ecosystem,
Mm-hmm.
and the plantation was uh, a commercial plantation, but they've revitalized it to be an organic
Mm.
plantation. So they had to wait to get organic certification and so on.
Yeah.
There's some lovely teas coming from Nepal.
Yes.
So it's very similar terroir to Darjeeling,
Yes.
and it has very similar flavor profile to a Darjeeling, which of course I'm sure is just a wonderful, beautiful elegant tea.
Being Indian, we first thing I do in the morning is make myself a cup of tea. So I
Yes.
love tea. And do you as a sommelier, do you if you have like, do you do tastings? Like if you have a few teas in front of you, would you be able to identify what regions of the world that tea comes from?
Pretty close.
Yeah. Okay. That was huge as
We,
well.
as part of our certification, we had to do a series of blind tastings.
Right.
So, but I have perfected that. I think I shouldn't say perfected it, but I've honed it.
Hmm.
Um, it really takes practice.
I'm
So
sure.
you just have to keep trying a lot of different teas. I've got a tea here today that I'm going to make for you.
Oh, great. I was just going to ask you if there's a special way that our listeners can learn how to make tea and, a special way to pour it, or is there, a special equipment? And I see you have your equipment there, so please, and you have something on your t-shirt as well, I
So
see.
this is something that I would do if I were doing a tea tasting.
Yeah.
I would be demonstrating, and in some cases, the students would have these gaiwans. It's called a gaiwan. I have one on my T-shirt here
Yeah.
because I'm part of a gaiwan society,
Nice.
which is kind of a very loose society of tea lovers.
Okay.
So this is a Chinese vessel that was developed in the Ming Dynasty when they stopped making tea cakes and they started producing loose leaf tea. And they needed a vessel to prepare the tea that would give the leaves lots of room to move around. So I'm just going to show you the leaves. These
Wow,
are green. Yeah,
yeah.
reach out your hand and touch them, Kavita.
I wish we could.
Yeah. So,
I wish we
well,
could.
actually, what
I'd
I
love
like
to be
to
able to smell it too, but I'll have to manage.
yeah. So this is actually one of the reasons I love being a tea sommelier because it
Yes.
involves all five senses.
Yes.
So as a fashion consultant, wardrobe stylist, I enjoyed the visuals and the creative and the textural touch of fabric and so on and colors and combining all those things to create great looks. But with tea, it's taste, smell, touch, sound.
Hmm.
Um,
Even
it,
sound, eh?
oh yeah, because you'll see well, you may not hear this. I'll see if I can.
Well, I have my cup, so I'll try and follow along with you.
First of all, I've warmed up this vessel.
Okay.
I always suggest to people to use a small vessel, even if it's like if you have a cup and saucer that belonged to your great aunt or something.
Yes.
You can put the saucer on top of the cup and put the leaves in and just give it a shake. And then, see, I've warmed this up and now it's animated the leaves.
Oh.
They're nice and warm and they're giving off their aromas.
What kind of tea have you made there?
Sorry?
What kind of tea have you made there?
The green tea from
Green tea.
Guizhou province, which is in the south of China.
Okay.
So pretty close to the original growing area of tea. It's called a mao feng, and that relates to the number of leaves in the leaf bud. So I think the mao feng is a bud and two small leaves.
Mm-hmm.
And I've just poured, I like to warm up the water in the kettle, but then pour it into a thermos to keep it warm because I get multiple infusions from this.
Nice.
That's another thing to remember. So I try to bring it down. I've got a few pointers for people.
Yes,
please. When you're making a very good loose leaf tea, and there are lots of places in the Toronto area, in Canada, around the world where you can get good quality loose leaf tea, and for sure online. That water temperature is probably the most important thing. And if you don't have a variable temperature kettle, because you can get those kettles now where you can set the temperature, for green tea, it's important to keep the temperature lower. Don't ever put boiling water on green tea.
Really?
So this is about 75 to 80 degrees for the green tea, Celsius. The other thing is use a small vessel. So if you've got, even if you have like a milk jug or something,
yeah,
or the infusers are great. You know, those
Yes.
mesh or stainless steel infusers.
Yeah.
Those are fantastic too. Anything that's going to give the leaves lots of room to move around in,
Oh,
because
sorry.
that's the whole idea. You want the leaf to open up and impart its flavor into the water.
Okay. Sorry to interrupt, but why do you not put boiling water on for green tea? What's the reason?
Because it will, to just put it simply, it will scald the leaf,
Oh,
and the leaf, and you'll end up getting a very bitter,
oh,
very astringent
interesting.
tea
That's
that
why
will be
sometimes
quite unpleasant. So keep the temperature down, make it in a small vessel, infuse it for seconds rather than minutes. So I think this has been about 45 seconds. I like to use a strainer, and I like to use this little, this is called a fairness cup, but really you could use a milk jug or anything.
Yeah.
And it takes a little while to learn how to use a gaiwan. You have to tip this. I've actually written a whole post on how to use a gaiwan on my
And are
website.
those available anywhere, or are they?
They're available online. There are a lot of very good tea vendors that sell gaiwan. It's spelled Gaiwan. It
Okay.
means lidded bowl,
Nice.
very simply.
Yeah.
And so now I get to taste this.
And what is aroma? What is it? What does it smell like?
It's lovely. It's fresh. It's a little bit brioche, or you know, like bakery kind of sweet, milky, buttery. A little bit of sweetgrass. And it's okay to slurp when you're drinking, when you're tasting tea.
Oh, really? That's quite opposite from what you imagine. You know, the British when they drink their tea.
I know.
It's very
yes.
proper, right?
Yes, that's right. But when you're tasting tea, one of the things you do is you sip it,
Yeah.
and exhale through your nose as you're swallowing it, and or
Right.
just after you swallow it.
Sip,
And that engages the olfactory system.
exhale through
So
your nose.
I'll try and do what I've just described. Oh yeah. It's just amazing how much more of an experience you get of the tea when you exhale. Because the olfactory system is sort of right at the crossroads of the nasal passages and the tubes that go up from the throat. And so when the flavor goes down the throat, the aromas go up into your nose. And it's, I mean, you can with the tea, but you're not going to get anything at all like what you get after you exhale through your nose with your mouth closed.
Nice. Well, I'm drinking a Darjeeling tea, so.
That's wonderful. I was considering making Darjeeling.
Yes.
But then I thought, oh, I'll make a green, because it's just kind of, I want to show you what the wet leaf looks like. This is the other thing that is amazing. If you see, these are really lovely leaves that were sent to me by the producer directly from China. So you see, they're actually quite large.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, compared to the kind of leaves that you find in cheaper teas that are all broken, the standard for, I guess you could call it high grade tea or connoisseur tea, but the standard is as whole a leaf as possible. The less breakage, the better.
Nice.
You know, there are some black teas that are actually better broken because they release flavor faster.
Right.
With a bigger surface area.
Right. I feel as though that, you know, in North America, everyone is so, coffee is so common, right? And I think that's more of a common thing. And so do you find that tea is becoming more popular, and is, you know, in terms of what you offer, do you offer like, you know, tea parties or tea sessions or info sessions or things like that, so people can learn more about all that you know about tea? Or
I do offer sessions that obviously they're not in person at the moment, but they will be again. And I've done them for as few as 2 people right up to 140 was the largest group.
Really? Wow.
But in my studio, I can take about 6 people for a
Yes.
tea tasting. And sometimes there's a lot of different ways to do it. It can be, you know, exploring 3 teas, or the tea essentials, the basics of tea,
Yes.
workshops on how to use a gaiwan, matcha workshops. So matcha is, you know, that milled green
Yeah.
leaf from it's a powdered tea from Japan, and that's used a lot in culinary pursuits as well as whipping it up and drinking it as a tea.
Nice.
I've done illustrated talks. Did a talk where I sort of combined my old career with my new one at Sartorial Tea, where I talk about how tea and fashion have intersected over the centuries. I really love social history. And one of the reasons I've stayed in tea and will stay in tea probably for the rest of my life is because I love its history
Yes.
and the possibility for acquiring knowledge in this universe is massive because tea goes back 4,000 years.
Mm-hmm.
And every culture in the world has tea traditions and rituals that they've embraced. So, and I actually cover a lot of that in the tea book.
Yes.
So, you know, we explore regions and customs and ceremonies. And the book's been translated now it's available in 12 languages.
That's amazing. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
You know, I always find it's interesting when especially now in terms of people getting together in social gatherings, you know, it's always nice to learn new things and, you know, understand. I mean, I had no idea of the history and, you know, all the traditions that go into tea. And I think for people who are looking at something to learn about, it sounds like there's a wealth of information and knowledge that they can learn about tea.
There is a huge amount of information to learn, but I mean, in terms of getting started, it's all about finding a good source for a good tea leaf, you know, like a good product, and then having fun with it. I mean, you'll read in places that you know the temperature has to be this for this tea, and you have to do it this way, or otherwise you're not doing it correctly. But I'm one for experimenting. I love the idea of using tea in cooking. And another thing, and I had meant actually to have this handy to show you, but cold infused tea. So, you know,
Cold
infused tea.
Oh,
so you've probably seen those glass travel tumblers. You know, they're plastic on the outside and they have a glass
yes.
thing on the inside. Well, they usually have a little infuser in the top. Or you can just put tea leaves in a mason jar with some room temperature water, cover it, put it in the fridge overnight, and you will have a really lovely, sweeter tea than you would if you'd made it with hot water, because the catechins, which are the components of tea which actually bring out its astringency,
Yes.
aren't released as readily in cold, and there's not as much caffeine in it either. So it's a wonderful thing to have this time of year, and it's passive preparation. You just put the leaves in, put the water in, leave it in the fridge overnight.
Amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I learned so much. I mean, I think our listeners have as well. It's you know, I think I'm all about finding your passion, you know, finding the thing that really makes you get up in the morning and be excited for the day. And it sounds like you found your passion. And you know, I think that it will inspire people to look for things that maybe outside of their box, right?
Right.
And
Well, if you want to look me up, I'm on Instagram at the Tea Stylist.
yes,
And that's probably the best introduction to me, because they can sort of see what I'm all about from Instagram, and they can connect through my bio to my website.
Okay.
And they can connect to me through my website. So they can send me a message through or a DM me through Instagram.
Sure, and we'll put all your contact information in the notes as well, so
Great.
people can follow you. And if there's, um, if they're looking for a party, for example, and when we can get together, even do you do online events as well?
I have done some for, like I did one for U of T recently, and they want me to do something again in September.
Yes,
So that was for a student relations department at Hard House.
right,
And so they wanted to provide, they're all about providing um, little experiences
right.
for the students that can help relieve the stresses of study.
Yeah, well,
And
it's all about experiences, right? Life is about,
yeah,
enriching your experiences. And I think the more you learn about things that you think are everyday things, but you learn more about them, that enriches your experience with it. So,
well, what I love to do is to bring this kind of ritual into my life. So I usually start the morning with this type of ritual.
do you?
And
Nice.
it's very casual, it's not formal, it's not a ceremony, it's just a ritual. And it's a lovely thing. My husband and I sit around the breakfast table. I make tea like this, we drink it, we have conversations about the day, about yesterday, about philosophy and
It must be
about
very
the world.
calming and it must bring you into the present moment, just by doing that. And it
Yeah,
seems like it would have a calming effect as well. So many
it's a really,
benefits. Yeah.
really nice way to start the day. And then usually in the afternoon, around 4:30, I'll make, not every day, but most days I'll make some afternoon tea. So it'll be usually a black tea, like a Darjeeling and some
Yeah.
treats. And
That's
that's a
our,
ritual as
that's
well.
our
But
tea time. I don't know if coming, being Indian, that the 4 p.m. is the tea time. And even
yeah,
my dad, it's like, oh, what time is it? It's 4 p.m. I've got to have my tea.
right.
I don't
Right.
know where that came from, but
Just saying to anyone, would you like a cup of tea? I think it just invokes a kind of sigh, like,
oh
ah,
yeah,
yeah,
yes,
sure.
exactly. So I so appreciate all this information. Oh my God, I could talk to you for hours. And I'd love everybody to pick up your book, and we'll put all the information for everyone to see it and to connect with you if they're interested.
Yeah,
And thank you so
that
much.
would be
I
lovely.
really, really enjoyed this. And everybody look up Linda Gaylard, the tea sommelier. Thanks so much.
Oh, thank you, Kavita. It was
And
lovely.
it was great to learn so much. Thank you so much.
Take care.
Cheers.
Cheers.